When John Lennon and Paul McCartney got together to write songs, it wasn't always a linear process. Sometimes each of them would show up with a good idea, and they'd mesh them together into a complete song. Other times, they'd start with the same spark of an idea, and then contribute different sections. Combining ideas from other perspectives was a winning songwriting strategy that John continued to use after the Beatles' breakup, and in one instance helped John get back on the charts after a particularly damaging solo misstep. Like a fair number of the ex-Beatles solo hits, Mind Games had its origins while the band was still together. In 1969, during the height of Vietnam War protests, John began writing what was initially called Make Love, Not War.
Make love, not war.
Eventually, John decided the phrase had become a cliché and abandoned that theme. Undaunted, he borrowed the middle eight of the song, Love is the Answer,
Love is the answer.
and used it in another song he was working on, I Promise.
Love is the answer.
I keep using the same middle eight for every song.
But in the end, both songs were left unfinished. Instead, John made his anti-war sentiments known through a number of solo hits that became activist anthems.
Imagine there's no country.
Through these top 20 hits, John had become readily accepted as a solo artist. But the tide turned when fans felt he went a little too far with his 1972 album, Sometime in New York City. This politically charged collection aggressively addressed hot topics of sexism, racism, and the criminal justice system.
It ain't fair, John Sinclair, in the step all breathing air. It was Sunday, dirty Sunday, when the shots were people there.
It was a startling contrast to John's highly acclaimed Imagine album. A harsh Rolling Stone review called it shallow, derivative, witless doggerel, and artistic suicide. Being subjected to such scorn left John frustrated and losing confidence in himself and the future of his career. But then he came upon a recently published book by human behavior professors Robert Masters and Gene Houston. Their book, Mind Games, The Guide to Inner Space, promoted retraining the mind with the goal of living with more focus and flexibility. Their work resonated with John and inspired him to put the message in a song. Seeking a soft sell approach that would be easier to swallow than his previous protest outings, he revived his unfinished song Make Love, Not War and gave it this new theme of raising consciousness. Some of the author's catchphrases appear in the song. One lyric, Yes is the Answer, harkens back to John's first encounter with Yoko Ono. In 1966, at a London gallery show of her avant-garde art, visitors were invited to climb a white ladder. Framed up on the ceiling in tiny letters, visible only through a supplied magnifying glass, was the word Yes. John was immediately taken with its positive message.
Yes is the answer.
Mind Games was recorded in the summer of 1973 at Record Plant in New York. Unlike his previous albums, John produced it himself. The string-like sweeps heard throughout are a three-note motif played by John on a slide guitar. John was a fan of reggae, especially this song by fellow musical activist Bob Marley.
Get up, stand up for your rights.
John attempted to inject a bit of that rhythm in the middle eight. But he said it wasn't easy explaining reggae to American musicians in 1973. Released Released in October 1973, the song hit number 18 on the American charts, number 11 in Canada, number 26 in Great Britain, and number 5 in Italy. The song has been popular enough to be performed well into the 2000s by others, including Sinead O'Connor, George Clinton, Tom Moran, and Kevin Spacey.
Mind Games by John Lennon.
Though not one of his biggest hits, Mind Games and the album of the same name got John back on the top 40 and ushered in his next wave of commercial success. What's your favorite John Lennon solo song? Let us know in the comments. And for the stories behind all 200-plus solo hits by John, Paul, George, and Ringo, you'll want to check out the book, After Abbey Road.